So now we're going to look at a Latvian gambit declined, and we're going to try to play in the center as best we can. And there are three reasons we're going to watch white castle on the queen side in this game. But there's two interesting things, takeaways in this game. The first is that this is a rating intimidation example. Now, this player's only rated in the low 2000s, and for some reason, I ended up playing him, and I don't do that often. But I'll take lots of these players as long as they're not going to use computers. We'll play. But you'll notice that white doesn't play a very strong opening, and what happens in this particular case is that it's pure rating intimidation. I lose my mind and make the wrong order of moves in the opening, and he looks at it for a while and decides that I must be right, when in actuality he's got a one game in like move 3 or 4. So why don't we take a look at this, and we'll start our engine. So now this is an example of the wrong order in the Latvian gambit. For some reason, this machine wants me to take that pawn, which I really don't like doing, but I like playing knight to c6 here. The computer likes knight to f6, stockfish 8 that is. And now as you see, we're practically lost. Well, now it's coming back down to where he only has an advantage of 1, which is fine. But the rule is, and this should be an obvious thing, you don't really want to pin that knight if there's no pin. Knight to d5 attacks the knight, attacks the bishop rather, puts the knight in a much better position, a position of dominance, forces something to happen with that bishop, and basically gives white a huge advantage. And why you don't just play knight to d5 here is ridiculous. In fact, one of the reasons that I pin that knight when the d pawn is moved for white is to prevent knight to d5, because knight to d5 is very strong in this kind of formation. So the stockfish is saying he should capture the pawn. He moved d3, and notice that his giant advantage just completely evaporated. Now we've transposed into something where I'm really comfortable with, and I'm breathing a sigh of relief that since I lost my mind and made the wrong order of moves, I have a reprieve. So he breaks the pin that he just created on himself, and I start developing. And amazingly, black has a small advantage here. And white takes the pawn instead of moving a3. I've always wondered why people move a3 there, and I'll tell you, I don't consider it to be a strong move, and yet the computer just recommended it. So I move d5, and knight to h4 was the right move to cover that pawn. Now it says I should retreat to e7, which I don't do very often. I like taking that knight off, chasing the bishop, cramping white's position. He moves back, I recapture the pawn, and I'm willing to play this. At this point, I think I have better development. I have the f-file open. Everything that we talked about in the prologue is coming true here. He's a number of moves away from castling. Now he moves there, belatedly, and pins me. Should have just moved bishop to e2. Now the computer consistently begs me to play h6 here, and I don't like knights hopping around, so I castle. And he's preparing to castle queenside. So this is not a good plan. The computer says I can just, with all the nerve in the world, play h6, and that if he ends up trying to sack on h6, that I can do something about it. So let's see what I don't play. Oh, he says he's going to play bishop takes f6. The computer doesn't even consider the sack. So, okay, it's not something an experienced player like myself likes. I move bishop to d7, getting out of the pin, maintaining a small advantage. He should develop, and now for some reason, and I don't know what that reason is, he decides to take this knight off. Maybe he's scared that I'm going to move knight to g4. Well, maybe that's what bishop to e2 was about. So now we have a decided advantage here. The computer doesn't give me much, but the computer is planning on playing bishop to e2 and castling short, no doubt. Instead, he decides to protect his knight, which is not even attacked, and weaken his king side. So now, as you see, in one move, he's created a loss. Now let's look at the before. He's only down half a pawn. Making one move, g3 equals a loss. Look at all those white squares on the king side. All of a sudden, backwards f pawn, wow, look at all that. The computer's recommending h6, which I doubt I played. I lose my big advantage. He wanted me to start trapping that knight, so I think that this variation that we're playing here is nearly as good. So if you look, there's this giant hole on e3. You can go knight to e7 to d5 and then to e3. It can be covered by knight to g2, but then you can take that knight off too. So now we play this, planning to force the knight away. Now it says he should castle short, and he castles long. And once again, we're on the verge of a winning advantage. Queen to d5, which is what I played. Now his king is under attack. He's castled long. I'm doubled on the f-file. Not a lot he can do. He's got to play b3 and then, be forced with a huge weakening of his king position. He pushes. He's trying to get aggressive, and it isn't working out. Queen to b4, attacking the knight, creating luft for his king. Now, I should have probably just played knight to d5 and then gone to e3, but alas, I moved to c3, and I still have, if we sit here and look, now it is a winning advantage. So it says he's got to play queen to c5, and he takes, and now he's in the dumper, because we're setting up discoveries and all kinds of problems, and he says he's got to get his king out of there. He's got to play king to d2, and then he gets a rook in his face. So he takes, and matters just get worse and worse. So I should be playing rook to b8 there, which I don't. And he's got to run with this king, and he fails to do so. Now we're going to have fun taking some pawns. And you'll see he'll soon be checkmated here. Rook on 6 to f7 is the right move, and I got it. And, the key is here that, wow, this knight takes d4 is recommended. Bishop to b3 results in a mate. So the game's over, and it just shows you a very interesting thing. Rating intimidation. He can't figure out why I've made this ridiculous opening move, and he had a win. And he made a very innocuous move, g3, inaccurate middle game move that looked like it did almost nothing, and in fact it caused a loss. So that's the end of this takeaway on the Latvian Gambit declined.